Welcome back to the Weaving Magic podcast. I'm your host, Tara Webb.
And I'm Alyssa Lilly.
And today we are kind of diving in, just kind of not knowing what we're talking about, doing those things of like, hey, what comes up?
Let's rewind. You know what we're going to talk about.
But
you're not telling me.
Because we were popping on and you're like, oh, we're going to do something fun. I was like, oh, I know what we're going to talk about. I'm kind of just wanting to talk about like outer space.
Okay.
And, like,
total left field. Okay.
Because I started thinking of like astrology and the sun being massive, and how if the sun is new, it's probably like bright blue because it's the hottest it can be. And right now our sun's like technically an orange yellow color, and black holes. And like, that's just where my brain is at the moment.
Okay. I'm not prepared for this conversation, but that's okay. We could also get into aliens. I think that's kind of a crazy concept.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because I think it's crazy to think that there's not others out there. Like, that's wild.
It really is. Why? How do people rationalize that we are the only intelligent beings in the freaking universe? This universe is massive.
It is.
Just because we haven't personally seen a planet with life forms doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
And the big thing to me is, just because it isn't in one of our texts that they were created, right? That whatever,
like religious texts and beginning of Earth.
Yeah. And I think of this also because there's a lot of archaeological finds that are coming out recently, like huge ones, Cleopatra's tomb and like that kind of stuff. And it shows where I think it's like pushing back the date for, where we all were or whatever. And so it makes me think of like what could have been with aliens coming down. Aliens, I feel like it's a bad word, with like extraterrestrials coming down. And they say like, the very beginning of time we're like lizard people and they were in charge, and that's like our god and like that kind of thing.
Well, and it's interesting too, because maybe they have come to us, and when we look at history, it's how they were interpreted, right? They weren't interpreted as aliens from outer space because we wouldn't have been able to really understand that. Or it could be from a safety perspective, right? I don't want to tell these people who have wars all the time that I'm from outer space.
That, and we also don't know what was actually said or saved, because so many things have been. I mean, we think our Earth I think our Earth is like so many years old, whatever, right? Millions or billions of years, whatever it is. And if we think that, then how do we not know what has happened in between that time to think that, like, we were Neanderthals at some point, and like we didn't have the concept of thinking certain thoughts, and like there's just so much missing. Like I feel like society has gone in this just warp of like, think of Lemuria, it's like everything's really scientific, Lemurian Atlantis, and we're up here, and then it's flooded and we start over. And then we think kind of back to like ancient Egypt, I think as well, with the pyramids and like all these huge like designs that we had to have like maybe extraterrestrials truly to help us. Some, they had some amazing
because they're so
knowledge.
Intelligently designed.
They are. I mean,
they are either channeling some true wisdom or aliens.
I mean, because the way that they're designed is actually in alignment with the stars, and like with specifically on the lines, like the ley lines of how you can tap into like certain energies and stuff. And
so wild.
Yes. And so I feel like, look at that. It's almost like there was a collapse of society. I think we're like on that brink as well in some ways, honestly. I think we're like on that path again.
We're in the thick of it right now.
We are. And so it just, there's this one thing I saw about a black hole recently where, no one really has much knowledge about a black hole, because if it goes in, it's gone. And I think it was like so many years ago, maybe 10 or 12, something went into a black hole. I think it was a star. And then actually like came out or was burped out or something like recently. And it was like the only evidence they have of like something coming out of a black hole.
That's wild. I didn't know that. I need to read more about that. It's so funny that you're talking about this. My inner child is jumping for joy right now, because when I was little, I used to want to work for NASA, and I loved space and aeronautical engineering. And I built, I was in a competition in high school. I can't remember the name of the company that was hosting it, but I built a Geiger counter that they were going to use in one of their test launches, and I won. So they used the design that I created for it and everything, and I used to be super nerdy and obsessed with it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that also gets into like the idea that there's also, we're living in a firmament instead of like our world being round. And I'm the kind of person, I don't know if, y'all realize this at this point, but I'm the person, like, I entertain most thoughts just to see. Like, if you can't prove it's not there kind of thing, I'm like, I'm just going to think about it. I'm going to consider it. Which, side note, Einstein's theory of gravity is actually just a theory. It's not proven, which is wild. So
that it's such a foundational piece of how we function. Yeah.
And that it's like, in all the school books, like this is basically what it is, and I could see why people would just like take it as fact, of course. But I'm just the kind of person like, what if it is, there's a firmament around us and we haven't actually reached space, and like, what's, I think of that. I think of like all the different dimensions where there's like parallel worlds of like someone like me talking maybe on a podcast to an Alyssa or something like that, or they're doing some other kind of business together. Like, that's kind of cool.
Every choice that we have branching off into its own timeline is kind of wild to think about. Yeah.
Like, literally me deciding to flip my hair versus not. Is that like an extra world somewhere?
The one that trips me up a lot, especially with as advanced as technology is getting and being my techie, geeky self, is the concept of the Matrix, of us all just being a computer program, and where everything we're experiencing is delicately designed. We're watching, right now we are literally designing AI that is almost human. I mean, look at how well the Alexa and the Google Homes, how all of those have gotten so advanced. And they even have robots that have very human-like features, having conversations. And if we can create something like that, and the realities that we're creating in video games, the in-depth storylines with the tugs at the heart, or when you read or write a book, you're creating these worlds.
There's a new thing.
Oh, no.
Of a headset, a virtual reality headset that actually kills you if you die in the game.
No way. That doesn't exist.
Yes, it does. It's not mass produced.
I was going to say, that has to be illegal, right?
Yeah, it's not mass produced. And so what it is like they put it on and there's like this little detonator thing right here, because the whole point is that they want people to actually feel what it actually feels like when you're playing it, like feel the stakes, and it's supposed to actually detonate, like kill the frontal lobe of your brain, and so you're going to actually die. And they're trying to make a tamper-proof version as well, to where you can't take it off until you're done, which is wild.
My brain is broken. Why would you want to experience that? Why would you want to experience that fear? There
are some people, if you think about it, it's like, they play video games instead of going out and into the world to actually experience things. It's like, that's their version of the excitement. Some people.
I mean, I get it. I love video games. Video games are my jam, but I don't want to die.
No.
I die a lot in video games. I'm very grateful that my character just comes back.
Think about that level. Video games are that thing for people who they learn how to make mistakes. That's the whole point. And so, this is what we talked about.
It depends on the player, because you have some people who mentally break down because they need to be perfect and go through it.
But early on, there's no way you can make everything right early on. Especially at the very beginning of the game, you're going to die once at least. It's just
absolutely.
At least. And that's just wild to me.
We're playing the new God of War Ragnarok. I don't know if there's any nerds listening here with me.
I'm a nerd. I want to go look at
that. So it just came out this week, I think. Maybe last week. I don't remember. Huh?
On what?
On all of the things. God of War is a very popular game. So
is it on the Switch? Is that on that? Because that's what I have.
It might not be on the Switch. I think it's on the PS4 and Xbox and computer.
So basically, Justin wanting a PS4 forever, I'd be like, yes, we can go buy a PS4 now.
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine. PS5, if you can find one, they're way better. But yeah, it just came out, and now I forgot what I was going to say about it. I messed up. I've been dying a lot and raging at the game. I literally looked at Sean and was like, I'm never fucking playing this game again, because I'm just so bad at it. I had that moment. Have I played it again? Yes, but he laughed because that's how he feels when he plays my games. Because the way that this game is designed to be played, he's better at. But like Horizon Zero Dawn,
so what's the difference?
Shooting.
What's the difference of the two?
Honestly, it doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like with God of War, it's very in-your-face fighting style. You're literally defeating gods. And there's a lot of, you have to use your shield to deflect and things like that. But in my game, I get to hide in the grass and stealth kill and things like that. And I'm way better at that kind of style of games, the stealthy games.
It's like Justin playing Monster Hunter. And I'm like, but the monsters may not be very mean. Like, look how sweet the monster are. Like, it's really pretty. And he's like, it's a game. And I'm like, but look at the monster. It's so gorgeous. And he's like, stop it. I mean, that also gets me into the idea of like gods, the idea of gods and how shifting our belief to like one god or different gods over time, how they could like disappear. And I mean, there's so many books about that of like, you know, Zeus and all of them are actually living in like New York City or whatever now because they are no longer godlike. But
we don't know that's untrue.
Right?
Right? If they have these powers and can change form, you can't prove it. You can't prove they don't exist in society and we just don't notice them. Or they choose not to be noticed.
And I want to take this time to announce that Alyssa and I will be going into lore and like really talking about things like this.
It's going to be so much fun.
It is. It's going to be on YouTube. And so they will only be on YouTube. Like, it's not YouTube Shorts, right? It's just exclusives.
Yeah.
And it's only if you subscribe, I think, right?
I think so. We haven't set it up in YouTube yet. This is brand new.
No, but
so
like, as we're
definitely
talking
go
about
subscribe
this,
to the channel and stay tuned. We'll have it linked in the notes below. But yeah, we already have a list of all the different lore that we want to go in. Magical things like unicorns and fairies and mermaids and Krampus and all these different things.
And this adds like the gods, like the god aspect.
Yes.
It's cool because that's also tying into outer space of like, you know, when I was little thinking God is in the space, God's up there. And it's like, no, God is more ether. You know, God is...
Which is a weird concept to try to wrap your mind around.
But then you also look at the God concept of like the gods. And I don't know, it's very interesting, you know, and we think of, so they say like over in Antarctica, there's, you know, you can go inside the earth and how the earth is actually not solid. You know, there's like different levels of beings and like creation inside the earth. And there's this man who used to be a pilot for the US, which actually flew over there and has a book talking about it. And it's the idea that those who lived on top of the earth actually went inside and they're like helping protect the earth. And it's like all this massive greenery and stuff. And so, yeah.
Oh, no, go finish your thought.
No, and so it's like just really cool. Like, you know, the gods have like, you know, if they were lizard-like, have gone underground, or, you know, the gods, the Atlantis people or whatever were like, you know what, instead of sinking ourselves, we can go underground because I'm tired of dealing with it. You know, it's just interesting, like what is actually out there.
What is actually out there? I literally just had a download. This is going to be such an amazing series. I'm glad that we're talking about this right now because I think we could have different playlists. It's all the same series, but we could have a playlist for the different pantheons and the different like train of thoughts that we have. Because I feel like with fairies, even mythical creatures alone, we could do so many episodes on that. So I'm just really excited. And oh, it's going to be so much fun. But I can't even communicate. I'm having so many ideas right now.
I mean, and also like if you think of the gods, how the Shakti energy is basically the divine feminine energy throughout all of the different feminine deities throughout life, and like where that originally started. Because you could say like Shakti is the original one, or like there's even one Isis. Maybe, no, I think Isis comes after. But you know, they say like this is the original and it just goes down through. I'm curious to learn about like African goddesses. And because I mean, technically that might also be like original, you know, the Sekhmet and that kind of thing.
Ooh, I love that. Another topic that I think would be cool to get into is looking at how the chakra system is interpreted by different regions, because it's wild that the idea of a chakra or energetic system is in place all over the world. in history, in different even religions and studies and energetic studies. And it's so fascinating to see how they intertwine with each other, even though these people had no contact with each other when this teaching was in the making.
I mean, it makes me think of like the Stonehenge and places like that where, you know, they have almost like ley lines, but they have the ability to, the way they were built, to like almost transport themselves from one place to another. I believe that's what they were, is like they were able to transport at certain times of the year.
Because society has crashed and fallen, we don't know what wisdom we've lost.
Yeah, so
or what
much
wisdom
of it.
And even when we look at old relics and things, it's everything that we come up with on how they were used is hypothesized at some point.
I mean, even dinosaurs probably actually didn't look like the way they say they do. And most
all
of
we
the
have
dinosaurs,
is the bones. We don't know what their skin looks like.
and we only have pieces of bones. We do not have any full dinosaur skeletons. So the bones that we actually see now aren't exactly the way that they were built. We don't know that. And here's like the best part to me. Imagine a T-Rex. Like, who actually needs little fingers, like little hands? No value in that. Imagine if they were reversed and they were a dragon, because they were so small. They actually like had the
those
wings.
little hands were actually their wings. Oh my gosh!
Right.
That
But
would
you
be
see
amazing.
yes, you see so much about, like, you know, there's this, I don't know if it's a tree, but like this this large snake looking thing that has turned into stone, you know, and it's just like curved around a snake. Like, also thinking of giants, of, you know, how they actually might have become the mountains we see now if it was the huge, you know, quote unquote flood, which is interesting to me, of like, not just in Christianity, but the idea of that and how that could have, you know, if it was like a huge ice age meltdown, and that could be the flood, you know, and that could kill the dinosaurs and the huge giants or whatever. Or if there was,
it would be fascinating to go through lore and
I mean,
texts and
that
history
even
to see
being,
if that theme repeats.
That even being, you know, looking at Christian versus Judaism versus like all of them across the board with that. And I mean, because you look at the ones that say, I don't know if it's in Arizona or wherever it is, but that huge like stump looking thing, they're like, oh, it's a petrified something, right? But it actually looks like a massive tree that was just, which is
It's wild.
It is.
Cut across, so in case you don't have the visual. You have to get it from the sound effect only.
Basically, that's just saying that, so Justin has this, I think it's called the 11th man principle or something like that. And it's where if everybody else believes the same thing, there should be at least one person questioning it.
Absolutely. Even if it's ridiculous. Like flat earth. I love that you argue flat earth. It breaks my brain to even consider.
Just because it's so, and my husband's the kind of person that's also like intentionally does it to break people's brains, because he doesn't believe it at all, but I will give him the arguments and he's like, yes, and like goes and tells people, and they're like,
runs with it.
And that's the thing, is people get so mad. It's like, I can hear someone's story and be like, no, that doesn't make sense, but cool. People get really mad about, it's almost because it's like our beliefs, who we are, has been challenged.
Our core, yes. Has
something
been
that, and like we've been lied to in some ways, and we can't admit that. Not that you have
but
been
also, why is that something that gives us such a visceral reaction? What is wrong with having more wisdom or expansion into the way that you're thinking, even if you don't agree with it?
I think because we weren't taught that. We were taught that here's the answers, period. Right? We weren't really taught to want to go look forward. Especially if you grew up to look in the Christian mentality of like, you don't question God. You know, if you look at school, you don't question why. That's just all it is.
I got in trouble all the time for asking why, or, you know, I feel like I learned a little bit differently than most people too. So I would ask the weird questions and immediately be shut down or get in trouble or be punished for that. So I stopped asking. I ask way more to my adulthood now, but you're right. We're taught that it's not okay.
I mean, Justin was talking to Dominic before I came up here, being like, because Dom likes to fight me right now on things that I kind of just want him to listen. Like he's using a spoon to drink his coffee, and I'm like, Dom, don't use a spoon. You're making a mess. And he's like, it's like soup. And I'm like, Dominic, you're making a mess. Like, I get it, bud. And I don't mind him trying new things and like expanding that, but I also want him to like show me that he's thinking through it versus just like la 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 woo, you know, like just
I feel like he's got such an inventor's mind.
He does.
The ideas flow, he just has to put them into action. Is he a manifesting generator?
He's a manifester.
He's a manifest. So that makes sense to me that he just kind of instantly jumps in. I have to do this because it hit my mind right now.
Yes.
Like, I picture him,
which is also ADHD. Like I can't veer from this because that's what my path is.
I see it in my mind. I have to make it happen. And I do picture him, not to manifest this for you. I picture him being that kid that like takes apart the toaster and tries to figure out a different way to make it work, or to make it jump into a bowl of butter.
He's already trying to take apart his brother's toys just to figure it out, which is cool. Like, I want to get him an old TV or an old computer just to like tinker with and try to find that.
I think he would really like Minecraft. I think
he loves Minecraft.
With you. Well, so when I came down and saw you guys, they acted like they didn't know what Minecraft was.
I think I bought it after you were here.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Okay.
Or was it?
Because you can literally build a game within a game.
The one we have isn't the one that you can build.
Oh.
It's a dungeon one that you're fighting witches and other things. It's kind of cool, but it's not that.
I didn't even know that existed.
I didn't either. I was like, I don't know. I'll have to send it to you because like I bought this thinking like, yes, for Minecraft, right? I got that. I was like, I don't think I can build here, but okay. So I need to look at the one that you're talking about.
Yes, it is I can send it to you. It's on the Switch. It's really fun. And they literally can design a world within worlds.
Nice. Well, and like Justin was saying to him, well, Dom, you know, Mom wants you to be able to understand something so then you can, like, you know, the whole thing of like, here's boundaries and then you go explore kind of thing. And he's, you know, what's 1 + 1? And he's like, well, that's 2. And he's like, yeah, if you didn't know that, then how would you know like certain things, right? Because somebody could tell you it's 3 and you would just believe them. And I was like, actually, 1 + 1 could equal 3. And Justin's like looking at me and I'm like, 1 person plus 1 person could equal a third baby. And that's like 3 people. And he's just like, you're not.
I love the way your brain works. It is my favorite thing in the universe. Or if you're pregnant, right? So 1, 2, and 3. So 2 is 3. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And in that sense, 1 + 1 could equal 4 because you have twins.
Or like however many that you're pregnant with.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's wild. Oh. What's our challenge going to be for this week?
Something that you would normally not even think about because it makes no sense. Just take a second look at it.
Humor having an argument about believing in flat Earth. Yes. Come up with an argument. You know it's not real, but come up with ways to defend it like it's real, just to exercise that muscle.
Or defend unicorns actually existing, because I believe they still exist, right?
Yes.
Something that seems so fantastical. Imagine an argument and just create it. And hey, that's another reason why books are so amazing, because, you know, people who
write challenge
books
the ideas
actually think of like, hey, what if that were possible? That's where you tap into that imagination and creativity. So your challenge is to find something that you just in your heart know is not true and try to make it true. Please share with us. Please share with us.
Tag us on Instagram, in the comments on YouTube, wherever you are. Email us. I don't care. We want to hear about it.
Yes.
This concludes another episode of our Weaving Magic podcast.
We release 1 episode a week, so be sure to subscribe to catch the latest episode as soon as it releases. You can find us on Instagram at Weaving Magick Podcast. That's Weaving Magick, Magick Podcast.
We would also love it if you could leave us a review. If you do, make sure to email us your review so we can send you a thank you gift. Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to find a way to weave magic into your daily life.